Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the opening day of our celebration of the partnership between Nelson Mandela University and the University of Oldenburg. It has been very exciting and vibrant times. I hope that with the choir presentation this morning, you have been serenaded and you have felt the African welcome. I know at the international office it's been a very exciting couple of weeks in preparation for this visit. So exciting, in fact, that it wasn't just that we were welcoming partners. It really was indeed that we were waiting for friends to arrive. So welcome. In the interest of time, I won't take too long. I will hand over to Prof. Mutwa to do the opening welcome. So Prof, over to you.
Good morning, colleagues. I also want to recognize our colleagues that are participating online, virtually. I want to greet you, Program Director, Priscilla. Thank you very much for looking after the program this morning. I want to greet our guest of honor, Professor Dr. Ralph Bruder, the president of Carl von Ossietzky University of Oldenburg, and a very dear friend of our university. I hope I attempted that very well. I want to recognize Janka Smith, Director of the University of Oldenburg International Office. I want to recognize the deans of faculty, which I've seen this morning. I've not seen any of the DVCs. No, I'm coming to Tandy. She's our host. She's our host. I mean the other 3 DVCs. I would like to greet all the distinguished professors, doctors, colleagues from Oldenburg University. I want to greet our host for this morning, the DVC for Research, Innovation and Internationalization, Dr. Thandi Mgwebi, all honored guests from here at our university and from Carl von Ossietzky University of Oldenburg. It is a pleasure and a privilege for us to welcome you to South Africa and to Mandela University in particular. It has been a weekend of celebration for us as a university, as I participated this past weekend at the annual and the 20th Nelson Mandela Memorial Lecture delivered by the Prime Minister of Barbados. Indeed, our university was recognized as a young university, but with big ambitions. And last week, also our university had the pleasure of hosting the Research Week, which was quite a success, and again, put our university on a higher platform. And I want to congratulate Thandi again and the team. To you, I say welcome back home, Namgelegile. To those of you visiting us for the first time, you are warmly welcome. I hope this will not be your last visit. Certainly, I know that for some of you, indeed, it will not be the last visit. Today is a very special day for Nelson Mandela University. We are celebrating the 25th anniversary of an exceptional partnership with University of Oldenburg. Of course, Professor Bruder was just telling me that the University of Oldenburg is celebrating 50 years, and we have just celebrated 5 years as Nelson Mandela University, but we are a very old university because we walked into this name from the past, from the other names of our university that we inherited. So even though we are 5 years as Nelson Mandela University, who are not 5 years as this university. Who would have thought that a quarter of a century would be celebrated following a very successful engagement in scholarship with this university? Your unwavering support for Nelson Mandela University, your untiring commitment to our partnership, the journey you have walked with us in making a contribution to society through our respective academic projects has moved us from being partners to being family. Siyabulela kakhulu. Thank you. The collaboration between our two universities is firmly located within the context of the South African-German Scientific Cooperation Agreement, which was initiated 26 years ago. The Scientific and Technological Cooperation Agreement between our two countries is based on an intergovernmental agreement that was concluded on 12 June 1996 between the German Federal Ministry of Education and Research, the BMBF, and our National Department of Science and Innovation, DSI, on collaboration in the fields of science, research, and technology. Since then, there has been strong and continuing support for long-term research collaboration between our two countries in the form of jointly funded research. One key success factor is that joint projects are in alignment with national research agendas and priorities, as well as international initiatives such as the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and build bridges between our institutions and across scientific disciplines. The partnership between Nelson Mandela University and the University of Oldenburg, Professor, dates back to 1998 when the first memorandum of understanding was formally signed. The partnership spans the university's transition from the merger of the University of Port Elizabeth, PE Technikon, and Vista University in 2005, to the name change in 2017 when we took on Nelson Mandela name. This makes our relationship one of the longest uninterrupted partnership that our university has enjoyed. Joint research projects between our two institutions initially began in the Faculty of Education, resulting in short learning programs or capacity building courses for academics and management staff, the development and facilitation of online modules for postgraduate students and staff, e.g. in academic writing, supervision, research, coherence, and methodologies. Research colloquia and roundtable discussions. We have also had conferences. We have collaborated on research projects, including drama in education, HIV and AIDS education, the competence-based curriculum, the third mission of universities, and higher education and engagement. The partnership framework between German Ministry of Science and Culture in Lower Saxony and the provincial government of the Eastern Cape provided funding over the last 2 decades to support students, early career researchers, and academic staff between the faculties of education and Nelson Mandela University and Oldenburg University. And I can mention that for 6 years of that partnership, I was the Director General of the province, and I had to go inside and outside of Germany through this partnership. So it is a pleasure to be presiding over this partnership in this capacity. This fostered collaboration in research, teaching, and engagement. In addition, the German Academic Exchange Service, the DAAD, which we all know, has in the last 2 decades funded 8 collaborative research projects between the two universities in areas such as teacher education, agriculture, environmental information, knowledge system, and marine and coastal sciences. This has resulted in development of over 40 masters and doctoral students, as well as postdoctoral fellows. Of course, a lot has changed since our relationship was initiated. The macro environment in which we operate as higher education institutions has changed a great deal. The COVID-19 pandemic, the global economic downturn, re-emergence of racism and intolerance, wars and natural disasters, and the impact of climate change have all made the world an altogether more precarious place to live. When we took on the name of Nelson Mandela in 2017, we did so consciously aware that carrying this name of the world-famous icon placed a great responsibility on us to reflect his values and ethos in carrying out our mandate as a public higher education institution. Since then, we have been on a journey to become an embedded university in the service of society, contributing to resolve some of the pressing societal issues that face humanity. In the process, we have had to fundamentally reimagine the purpose of the university. The development trajectory we've chosen for Nelson Mandela University cannot be attained alone. It requires building partnerships and networks with like-minded universities, such as this University of Oldenburg. I firmly believe that in the University of Oldenburg, we have a partner who will contribute to changing the world. These thoughts have been uppermost in my mind as we recommit today, this week, as we recommit ourselves to another 25 years.
Dear Vice Chancellor, Professor Sibogile Mutwa, dear colleagues from Nelson Mandela University, dear colleagues from Karl von Ossietzky University Oldenburg, dear friends here in the room and also online, it's a great pleasure and of course it's a great honor to be today with you all. And let me first say we are overwhelmed by this kind of welcome. The choir was exceptional. It goes to the heart. Thank you so much. As you all mentioned, it's not that we are coming for an official signing of a relationship. We are coming to friends. And this kind of relationship, this kind of friendship between two universities is quite exceptional. Because typically, this kind of cooperation, it starts with personal relationships. You have colleagues that cooperate because of their interest in the research field, for example. But to have it constantly over 25 years means it's not only a personal relationship, it becomes an organizational relationship. That's what's happened with our universities. So what we do have today is exchange of students. What we do have today is an exchange of teachers, of researchers that are going here to Nelson Mandela University. And of course, they had been at our university last week. We had this kind of workshop, the Winter School in Internationalization of Teacher Education, which took place in Oldenburg. And of course, we met our friends from Nelson Mandela University at our campus, and vice versa. Yesterday, we spent the afternoon, and of course, you recommended it, at the beach, which is not so usual for us in Oldenburg to go to a beach in winter with the sun. And what happened? We met 3 of our students who just passed by. And that is what I call coming home to friends, because it's quite natural that we exchange. And in next year, we will have an exchangement of our highly respected colleague, Bernd Siebenhühner. He will spend with his family half a year here. And let me cite one of our students, just to make clear how they appreciate our students to be here. And it is cited in our website, so it's easily accessible by all the other students. And that is why they really would like to come here. So what he's telling us is, I can only recommend a semester in Gbecha to everyone. I have spent there the most beautiful 6 months in my life so far. In addition to my studies, there are countless opportunities to develop personal development, to get to know the country, the people, and to the most beautiful places on earth. Just by this citation, you see that our students really love to come here, and not only because of the nature, not only because of the really exciting content of their studies, but being part of their personal development. And that is why I think, and as you mentioned, that our universities are fitting perfectly together. We are sharing the same values. It's not only if you have a partnership, it's not only about the content. It's important to have the right content. It's important to have the right topics, but it's also important to sharing the same values. And it's not by accident that both of us do have in our names the name of Nobel Peace Prize laureates. Of course, Nelson Mandela, it's a worldwide icon. But Karl von Ossietzky also, he is a Peace Prize Nobel laureate. And both of them are a symbol, and I think more important today than ever. They are a symbol how important worldwide peace is, and that universities have to contribute to this aim. And our universities, we are such universities that do have a strong responsibility for the development of societies. We are standing for open societies. We are standing for tolerance. And that is, I think, what makes us so close together. And we are quite happy to have this close friend with the Nelson Mandela University. Let me briefly introduce, really briefly, because it's a full day and we have to sign documents, as I know. Let me briefly introduce to you our university. And as you mentioned, we are a young university. In the lifetime of humanity, 50 years might not be that young, but for university, 50 years is quite young. Yes. We are young and we are a dynamic university like your university. And just listening to the choir, you are a dynamic university. We are founded in the year 1974 and we have a strong basis in teacher education. And if you're talking about responsibility for society, for the societal development, of course, teacher education must be the fundament. And I think we are sharing again the same value that, that education has to be strongly emphasized. And then we developed over the years. We have many, many different fields. At this point in time, we have roughly 16,000 students. We have roughly 260 professors. We have roughly a budget of 260 million. So if you just remember 26, then you have the whole university, more or less. Our focal points are society and education. As I mentioned, still we are quite strong in the field of teacher education. Roughly 40% of our students are in the field of teacher education. We are covering all the different school types at our university. So I would say we are the strongest university in Lower Saxony when it comes to teacher education. Secondly, we have a strong focus on our environment and sustainability. Of course, that is the basis of many relations also with Nelson Mandela University. As you mentioned, I think it is one of the most important things nowadays to talk about sustainability. And in the field of sustainability, for example, we are strong in energy transformation, renewable energies. We have colleague Kuhn in the field of wind energy with us. So this is one of the strong fields. Nowadays, we are strong also in the field of combining energy and informatics or computer science. I think it's one of the major topics of today. We are taking care of biodiversity. Marine science is also a strong field at your university. We think it could be even stronger in the future, combining these two fields. And last but not least, we are talking about humans and technology. And humans and technology, we are quite strong, for example, in hearing research. We are starting. The Dean of the Medical Faculty, Professor Notwang, is with us. So we are starting also the cooperation in the field of medicine with your university. And let me have also a quotation of our name giver, Karl von Ossietzky, talking about human and technology. And what he was telling is, we must make science human once more. We must make science human once more. And this sentence with reflection about the Second World War. And he realized what technology can bring a disaster to humanity. And just looking at today's world, I think this quotation is stronger than ever. It's needed more than ever. We have to make technology, science more human again. I think this is also one of our strongest fields. And as you mentioned, and good to hear that you had a research week last week, and also we are quite strong in research. Maybe you have heard that in Germany there's a kind of a competition, national-wide competition. It's called the Excellence Initiative, that is bringing money to the universities. They have to establish what we call research clusters, quite big clusters. And we had been successful to have an own cluster at our university. And so we are playing in the same league that the top universities in Germany. And of course, what we're trying to have in the future also to stay in this kind of league in research. So we do have a special and strong focus on transfer and third mission, as you mentioned. Transfer and third mission in the field of course, supporting economy in this region. We are one of the strongest universities in Germany when it comes to startup culture, but also bring our knowledge to the society. That's one of our major aims, what we have to do. And as I mentioned, also, which is quite astonishing for such a young university, we established an own medical department, we established an own medicine at our university 10 years ago. We celebrated this year 10 years of university medicine in Oldenburg. So what does this mean now looking at the future? What are the next steps? And as you mentioned, dear Vice Chancellor, of course also we at the Presidium are talking about the strategy of our university for the next years. And one of the top topics is to expand our medicine faculty. We are on the next phase of bringing 200 students each year to this new faculty. So that's one of the major aims. Secondly, we would like to stay quite excellent in research. And it's an ambition, as you can realize, as you can imagine. It's not so easy because all the budgets in research, all the public budgets, they are highly under discussion. But also I think we are very well prepared in this field of competition when it comes to research money. I mentioned we are strong in the field of sustainability. It was one of our major topics right from the beginning. So we decided at our university to have this still as one of the guiding topics of our university. Sustainability must be a strong focus. And we are strong in that field, but we think not only to bring new and profilistic topics in that field, but also we have to bring together the already existing activities. It's quite typical for universities. You have so many things that are going on. And if we knew what's going on, we would be even stronger. So we thought it might be good just to coherent, to bring together all the different activities, and that is also kind of strategy. And finally, we would like to strengthen our networks, and exactly what you mentioned, to be strong in network, to have cooperation, and we will work in different levels, I would call it. First level is we would like to strengthen our cooperation within the city. I think as a university, you are an important factor for the development of a city. And our Lord Mayor in our city, he was telling he was visiting another city, not nearby, but in Germany. And he was guided through the city, and the guide tour told, at the end of this visit, he said to the Lord Mayor, it's a very nice city, but we don't have any future. I thought, huh? Why don't you have any future? We don't have any university. So just to make clear, if you are looking for the future, it's quite important, and it's very helpful to have a university at your side. That is what we are doing. We are signing up a kind of a strategic partnership between the university and the city. Secondly, we would like to build up a kind of network within the region. So we are collecting the different universities around, Applied University, our university, to collect in that northwestern region in Germany, also to combine with companies, with other actors in that area. And we are very close to the border, to the Netherlands. And also at their side, they have collected and they have built up a strong network. So we thought it might be very perfect to have it across the border. You have on the one side, you have the northwestern German area, you have the Netherlands area. And if we are connected, we have a huge region just talking about the next steps in research, in teaching, and so on. And thirdly, third level, of course, we are looking at establishing, enlarging our networks worldwide. And we are talking about face-to-face, personal networks, because everybody in each of us is known in this digital world, and we have networks in the digital world. And what we all experienced during COVID pandemic was how important the personal networks are. So we thought, as a strategic topic of our university, to be a strong partner in the city, in the region, and worldwide. We have roughly 200 partnerships worldwide with the universities like you, and we thought we should pick out only very few to build up strategic partnerships. And that these partnerships should not be only based on personal relations, but they should be based on organizational relations. And we selected your university to be one of our strategic partners. We have quite few. Another one is in Groningen in Netherlands, but Nelson Mandela is for us a perfect and really fitting strategic partner. So we are really looking forward for the next 25 years. We are really looking forward for signing not only the MOU, but working on a roadmap together. Roadmap means we are meeting each and every year, just looking what we did over the last year, and just talking about what we should do for the next years. And that is our aim, to become even closer with you. And of course, and you mentioned you will visit us in the next June. Hopefully, we have nearly the same weather. What I can promise to you, when you come to Oldenburg, you will meet friends. And what I realized here, it's not like, good to meet you. It's like hugging, good to see you. And that is what we are hoping to give you, the same hospitality we are feeling here. Thank you so much for having us here with you. And we are really looking forward for the next days. Thank you so much.
So colleagues, without further ado, we move on to the next highlight on the program, which is the signing of the MOU, and we invite the colleagues to bring the files forward, please. All right, colleagues, we are ready to proceed with the next section of our program. This session will focus on reflections of the 25-year of the partnership, and we've invited some esteemed colleagues who have been part of this very important journey to share their stories. And so without further delay, I invite Prof. Atimulin, and he will then be followed by Dr. Danai Tembo, and then by Prof. Yanka. Do you want to go first? Okay, then followed by Yanka, and then Prof. Bruder. So we will get the reflections from the panelists. Prof, over to you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Moin, Molweni, and welcome colleagues from the Ossietzky University. Welcome to Tobeja, and heartfelt welcome to all our colleagues here today. My journey has been a very, very, very interesting and fascinating journey. And I thought perhaps sometimes one of the best ways in which to capture a journey is by means of photos. And so what I've tried to do, I was told that I only have 10 minutes, but I can talk for a very long time. So somebody must just stop me when I need to be stopped. And I'm going to take you on a journey of my self-reflection relating to my experiences of my 21-year relationship with the Ossietzky University. From the time when I started as a student, I was a D.Ed student at the Ossietzky University in 2001. It was a joint partnership between the then University of Port Elizabeth and the Ossietzky University. And the first student who went over to Ossietzky was Lindiwe Blau. Ms. Lindiwe Blau is now a lecturer at the Walter Sisulu University in Umtata. And I really pay tribute to Lindiwe Blau, and I really thank her. And she's always in my mind and my heart because we lectured together at Vista University before Vista was incorporated into UPE. And she was the one who told me at the time, write to Professor Wolfgang Nietzsche, because we're not sure of our future here and the university is folding, and maybe Professor Nietzsche will be able to give you a scholarship to continue your D.Ed studies there under him. I had a promoter here at UPE, Professor Susan van Rensburg. So this was a wonderful opportunity for me to have the best of both worlds. To have a supervisor at UPE, Professor Susan van Rensburg, who was an absolutely amazing, wonderful, really caring, kind, and compassionate promoter, and to go over to Ossietzky and then to be mentored by a most amazing man, Professor Wolfgang Nietzsche. So, as is customary in my culture, we always pay tribute to those people who were the pioneers of these kinds of activities. I want to pay tribute, and I have a lump in my throat when I think about Professor Wolfgang Nietzsche, because he was like a father to me in Oldenburg. And at one point when I was in Oldenburg, I said to him, I am really struggling because I can't really communicate, because people are telling me, you know, you need to speak German. So then he said, but you have me here. Why do you need to still learn German? Because you are so fluent in English. So I said, no, I want to connect with the people. And the one way to connect with people is through language. So I did the Deutsch als Fremdesprachen course in Oldenburg, six intensive weeks. It was so fascinating. After that, I could manage quite comfortably in Oldenburg, and I did my shopping. I had my own little apartment. I have most amazing experiences with regard to my relationships. And these relationships that I built up over the 21 years became family relationships. And I'm in contact with all those people for 21 years. And when I go to Oldenburg, I don't have enough time in my week or my 2 weeks to see everyone. Because even the young girl that I mentored, who's 11 years old, she was 11 years old at the time, went on to study teacher training and is now a foundation phase teacher in Hamburg. So when I get to Oldenburg, she drives from Hamburg to Oldenburg to come and meet me. So that's the kind of relationships, you know, we have built up over the years. And I also want to pay a tribute to Professor Claudia Laurenscheidt. She was Professor Wolfgang Nietzsche's secretary, and she supported him a lot in the projects, and he made many trips to South Africa. Professor Wolfgang Nietzsche was in the anti-apartheid movement, And there were many, many people who were part of his group who in the anti-apartheid movement. And after the collapse of apartheid, Wolfgang and his team decided that they needed to make a constructive contribution to the development and upliftment of the country. And that's how they got involved. But Claudia was my mentor in Oldenburg. When I did my thesis, I wrote my thesis in my abstract in 4 languages. I wrote it in isiXhosa, Afrikaans, English, and German. So I made sure that I wanted to also showcase the diversity in terms of multiculturalism, because my thesis was on multicultural education, and he was the father of intercultural pedagogics. So he was a perfect person to serve as my mentor. And Professor Claudia Lawrenscheid also visited South Africa on numerous occasions, and here she is at the very university, at this very place where she attended the CANRAD conference and presented a fantastic paper on human rights. She's very much involved in gender issues in education. So she presented that paper. So as I mentioned to you, ladies and gentlemen, I was a lecturer at Vista University from 1997 to 2003. And then I spoke about the people who were pivotal in supporting me. And then at the time, I wasn't sure what was going to happen, because it seemed many colleagues were told that they had to apply for packages to leave Vista University. So what I did was, I didn't apply for a package. I took the sabbatical and went to Oldenburg to finish my PhD. It was a risk because I could come back to nothing, but I took the risk. So that's what I did. And then what did I do during my doctoral journey? I presented seminars to students in intercultural pedagogics that Professor Wolfgang Nietzsche was coordinating. And I also spent 2 weeks at Pestalozzi Schule in Bremen, where I became a member of the staff of that school, and I did research there, and I wrote a chapter in my PhD on a school that has 32 children from 32 different countries as a best practice school on a Schule ohne Rassismus. And I attended the Schule ohne Rassismus programs in Bremen at the Tulip Hotel as well. So when I completed my PhD, Professor Wolfgang Nietzsche wanted to continue with this program, but he wanted to focus on drama and education. So that was his passion. So in 2003, they sent a group of skilled trainers in drama in education to come and work at Vista University. And they presented a course involving about 20 teachers from schools in the northern areas and the previously disadvantaged schools, especially teachers. And those teachers went out to go and use drama and education in the respective schools where they came from. And then as a result of this partnership, we managed to publish a book on drama and education, incorporating all the different styles and focusing on the research that was conducted. And then I also visited Oldenburg in 2008 and 2011. In 2006, I was invited to do presentations there for a new course that they were presenting in drama and education, and I worked with a group of other lecturers as well. Now I'm going to take you on a little journey of some of the photos, just to show you about this partnership. I was coordinating drama and education programs at the Nelson Mandela University after we incorporated, and I got a post at this university. And Mr. Frank Foreman, Karen, and Gabi were the drama trainers who also worked part-time for the University of Oldenburg. They came to our faculty and they presented drama workshops here. And this was the drama and education for teachers and staff with colleagues, and I think maybe Jackie can recognize her husband there. Also part of the program, Mr. Luke as well. He was very involved in the drama as well. And then we also invited the trainers from Oldenburg to come and visit our classes, to come and see what I was doing in drama and education. And they sat in and they gave feedback, and the students were so amazed and so ecstatic that we had visitors, and they had a good relationship with the students. When I went there, I had a wonderful relationship with the students. When they came here, the students adored them as well. And this is my friend from the theatre arts company. I eventually got involved in theatre arts with Oldenburg, especially Frank Foreman and Joka Wallach, and I visited some of his training programs. When Professor Wolfgang Nitsch came down, he often wanted to get involved in programs at the university. This was the school management and leadership program that he came to. I was presenting a lecture there to this group, and he was interested in also coming to see what was going on. He was such he was a man with so much experience and so much knowledge. We call him the walking encyclopedia. And he initiated many of these programs. That's why I'm constantly referring to him, because my relationship started with him. And some of you may know him and some of you may not know him. This was my presentations at Oldenburg, where I presented drama and education workshops to students. I loved it there. I enjoyed the students. These were drama students. And then some student presentations, students doing their presentations. We had some very interesting insights, because we shared the African and the European experiences in our drama work. And then you're taking me to schools to go and visit the schools in Oldenburg. We have a long-standing relationship with Helena Langeschule. And the gymnasium school, I went to many gymnasium schools in Oldenburg where I did presentations. I was invited as a guest teacher to many when they were doing some of the texts of South African texts. They invited me there and I enjoyed it. I loved the children. I enjoyed the teaching. It was fascinating. Here's just an example of a program when they came over, you know, that we would sit together and Wolfgang would prepare the program. Like there would always be some colloquium and there would be class visits. They want to see what the students are doing. And there would always be some kind of workshop for academics and for teachers as well as part of the teacher training. And then they would always want to go into previously disadvantaged areas to do drama workshops. This was at Vista University, where we invited the teachers from, because I was lecturing at Vista, so I was connected to all the schools around there and knew all the teachers, so I invited the teachers to come and they enjoyed the drama, and we said, now go back to the classes and go try and implement drama in education. It's a very powerful tool to enable students, learners to think critically and creatively and to unleash their creative potential, and those are the kinds of people we need in the 21st century. So they enjoyed it, and these were then later on, York came back to do drama and dance presentations for staff members. So other projects that we were involved in was, I was involved in the SAMISA program. Professor Paul Webb is a coordinator. And I was involved in that program. I was invited to be part of that program as well. And now at present, I'm working with a fantastic colleague from the University of Oldenburg, Dr. Silke Bakker. And I've never met her in person. We only did virtual classes. I visited her master's students virtually and did lectures with him. And she came to my methodology classes and did lectures. Just shows you. And we just completed a very interesting education week now. 8 of our students are in Oldenburg. And they attending schools there and doing teaching practice. And I was here in PE instructing them how to do tableaus, and Silke was coordinating it. So amazing, so amazing. It was really fantastic that, you know, we could come this far. And then there were also publications, a number of publications from this partnership. And some of the publications, as I mentioned to you, the book on drama and education, using drama and education for active student participation, an action research project. I had a chapter in that book that was coordinated by Professor Holderness, who is a retired professor. He was part of the program as well. And he worked with some of the colleagues from Oldenburg, specifically Fichten, who was very much involved in action research. And then the book was focusing on a North-South cooperation in-service teacher training, and I was the co-editor of that book. And then there was another piece of writing that I thought was very interesting, a sense of community and self-worth. Das Schweigen der Universität zu Sprache bringen, offene Fragen über Leben, Lehren und Lernen. That was such a fantastic project because Claudia Larenscheid had the idea, let us talk back to our professor and everyone create a piece of writing and give it to our professor on his 70th birthday, because he was so passionate about education. So I wrote a chapter on a sense of community and self-worth in that book. And that was the only English piece. The rest are all in German, and we handed it to our professor on his 70th birthday to commemorate him and to thank him for everything that he did. And it's a fantastic piece, you know, looking at what it is to be a human, questions about humanity, questions about our interpersonal relationships and all those kinds of things. And then the chapter that I wrote in my thesis on an analysis of the best practice school in Bremen at the Pestalozzi Schule, I also managed to publish it as an article. And then in the semester project with Professor Paul Webb as a coordinator, and his support people, Professor Mataba Gao and Professor Nadine De Lange, I supervised 2 students. A number of students were able to complete their studies with Professor Webb as the coordinator. And one of the students was Gamba Wafula, and he did an arts-based comparative study on pre-service teachers' perceptions of lecturers' engagement with the humanizing pedagogy. Unfortunately, he passed away before he could graduate, but I submitted the thesis, and he graduated posthumously. And his son, the dad was so amazing. They sponsored his son, who was studying at university at the time, to come to the graduation ceremony. And, you know, he was just in his 2nd year. So thank you very, very much for the support we get. And then the second master student was Rose Njaga, who was focusing on students' preparedness for transition from secondary school to university. Okay, and then I think you're trying to tell me to stop. And this was the last workshop that I presented with the East African students from Ghana, and this is part of the Oldenburg project with Professor Webb and others involved in the project. And I was showing them how to use drama and education for critical engagement. And I think you all know Malva. She's the coordinator of that project. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to me. I think I've really taken more time than I should have taken. So I thank you very much. But I wanted to give you a kind of a holistic view of what was happening, because many of you don't know about, you know, how it all started. So that's why I wanted to present it in that way. So thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Prof. Logan is a tough act to follow. But thank you so much for this opportunity to share my part in this 25-year journey. My journey hasn't been as long as Prof. Logan's. Mine has only been an 11-year journey. And so I'm just going to very briefly touch on some of the things that I thought would be nice to share. So I first went to Oldenburg in 2011 for a summer school. And this was in September 2011. It was a 2-week summer school as part of the Klimanet project. And there I got to meet Malva, and I got to meet Prof. Bant Siebenhöhner, who eventually became my doctoral supervisor. After that, there was an opportunity to return to Oldenburg and to return as an exchange student, and I got to spend a year there. Very exciting and very scary, being in a new country with a very, very different language, and yeah, very different experiences, but it was really, really a wonderful opportunity, and I jumped at the chance when the opportunity was presented. When I returned as an exchange student, it was in the winter semester, so quite a shock to the system to be thrown into that, but I like the cold, so it was a really nice time for me. Yeah, it was a lot of new things. between being orientated to the university, being orientated to the city, registering with the city because you're going to be there for more than a certain period. Also figuring out how to get around, that was fun, especially if you don't speak German. But even though it was initially quite an overwhelming thing, it became such a wonderful experience that I had there. And I always tell people that Oldenburg is like my second home, because whenever I go back, I feel like, you know, I just kind of get back into the routine and I feel like I'm in a very familiar place. So it's a really wonderful place. Lessons learned, language, that was a fun time. As an exchange student, I was on a DART scholarship, and of course one of the requirements is for you to do the German language course. I had to do A1 and A2. I think that was what was expected of us, and then that was A1 and A2, and everything beyond that was your own learning. But it definitely, it really changed the quality of life that I had there. As Prof. Logan mentioned, that, you know, being able to speak the language really helps to helps you to get by, especially on the day-to-day, whether it's shopping, whether it's hearing announcements in the train station. I had a friend that she was very new. She came towards the end of my exchange year, and she didn't know any German, and she ended up being stuck on a train. She didn't understand the announcement that that was the last stop, and she didn't get off, and they parked the train and had to get someone to bring the train back to the platform so she could get off. So it makes a difference if you understand the language. Sorry, I'm just... another thing was the culture. Definitely a culture shock coming from a very different culture, but it was, you know, there was a lot that was very different and initially seemed very unusual, but once I immersed myself, it was so easy to embrace. And I ended up really embracing the culture there, the food, which I will get to. And it was really, I think, beneficial for me to kind of let go of any apprehensions that I had and just fully immerse myself. So that was another thing. And then time. I had to let go of African time because that is very problematic when you are in a place where everything works on time. And so, I needed to let go of that quickly, and especially when it came to transport, you need to be on time or you will miss the bus or you will miss the train, especially when it's really cold and it's snowing. That is not a good thing because then you have to walk, and that's pretty miserable. But I did have an experience which really solidified in my mind the importance of being in time. I got on the bus on time and was sitting there waiting for the bus driver to leave, and there was a lady, I could see her running down the road, and it was cold and it was snowing, and she was running toward the bus, and I was like, oh shame, she just made it. She got to the door as the bus driver closed the doors, and he did not open the doors. He looked at her and he drove away. And from that moment on, I made sure I was early for any kind of public transport. I was never late and never on time. I was always early. I felt really bad for her because it was quite a miserable day. So time was another lesson learned for me. Highlights, food. I love food. Especially, I think I had some fun food experiences throughout the country, throughout the places that I got to visit. The Mensa, for those of you that have been to Uni Oldenburg, the Mensa is the cafeteria. I had some nice meals there, but I think my favorite food experiences were at the Weihnachtsmarkt. My favorite, absolute favorite, that's the Christmas market. Early in December, there's markets all over, and the food they sell there is incredible. So that was one of my highlights. And friends, I made some really wonderful friends that I am still friends with up till today. 11 years later. One of the friends, I actually attended her wedding a few weeks ago, and I met her at the university's Summer Culture Festival, and that was a great experience. I had this young lady come up to me and say, "Hi, I'm going to South Africa in a few months as an exchange student." So I was like, "Okay, cool, look me up when you get there." I didn't think she would actually follow through and do it, but she did it. She came and found me, and we have been friends ever since. And then travel. One of the other highlights for me is the opportunity I had to really explore as much of the country as I could in that short time. Student card at Oldenburg is fantastic because that lets you get on public transport for free. It was the best thing. And so I took advantage of that as much as I could, and I would travel in between, days I didn't have classes on the weekends, and also tried to, save up the little bit of scholarship money that I had, and my friends and I would, plan trips to different parts of Europe. Once you're in Europe, it's really cheap to travel there, so that was an incredible opportunity. And then the last thing, some lasting memories. I think I have definitely made some really, really incredible connections at Uni Oldenburg. One, my doctoral supervisor, who was so supportive and dedicated to me and my study, being his first experience supervising someone from a different university in a different country. So that was quite an adventure for us. And he even co-opted me to do guest lectures for his master students when I went there after my exchange year. Friends, as I've mentioned, I've made some incredible friends, colleagues, connections with colleagues, and I've been really grateful for the opportunity that I've had to be a part of this, this 25-year partnership, and how it's really enriched me, and the connections that I have there. And I've been back twice since my exchange year, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to return in the near future. And that's it from me. But just to give you, this picture is hanging in the international office. I think, is it still there? Yes. The last time I was there was 2018, and I saw the picture and I was like, oh, that's me. And so I took a picture of the picture of me. And so, yeah, I'm also still there. Part of me is still there in Oldenburg. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my name is Jenka Schmidt. I'm head of the international office at the University of Oldenburg, and I shouldn't be standing here alone. I'm not alone, of course, but Carsten Speck, our vice president for teaching and international affairs, should be here with us. And it's very unfortunate that he turned sick and is at the hospital instead of being here, but we wish him a very speedy recovery. He's very, very sad about not being here because, in a way, that this is happening right now is kind of due to him also. He's not only our vice president, but he's also what we call ambassador for the partnership. We have ambassadors for the two strategic partnerships. And yeah, it's his heart project, I would say. And yeah. So I'm trying to do my best to cover up for him as well, which might not be that easy. When we were thinking about the reflection of the partnership, my colleague Roman and also Malve, who was mentioned, did some research on the very beginnings, because we thought, whom do we need to thank about being here today? So who were the first people who started the whole partnership? And at our side, it was Prof. Gottfried Merkner, who started in the mid-90s, working together with probably different colleagues, and with a visit in 1998 and the first signed agreement at that time with the UPE, the partnership became an official one. And I think in 1999, the first student exchange was established. yeah, we came kind of in a stable partnership. We became new partners again and again. So after the merger, we even had a bigger family, kind of. And since 2005, we consider the Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University at that time as one of our key partner universities. We didn't have the term strategic partnership at that time. It was like key partners, but it's already for a long time that we consider you being our key partners. I'm too, okay. Sorry. And Professor Merkner and Professor Nitsch, as well as Malva, I think later, were working for the Center for South-North Education Cooperation in Educational Research and Practice. For some reason, it has always been these long names with the projects. But this center was the starting point of the cooperation. Yeah, this is the two professors from Oldenburg University, Professor Merkner and Professor Nitsch. And when Professor Merkner passed away, Professor Nitsch took over with full energy, I think, for the partnership. And in 2009, he even became honorary professor of Nelson Mandela University. And as far as we could kind of reconstruct from like files and papers, because we haven't been working at the university at that time, the whole cooperation started through Prof. Neville Alexander, who was in touch with Professor Merkner and Professor Nitsch, and working with them, or they knew each other, I don't know exactly. And he told them, get in touch with Bill Holderness and Janina Wozniak from University of Port Elizabeth at that time. And I think this is how the whole thing started, and who were the first initiators of this partnership. So, 25 years later, we tried to figure out, we counted like 16 or 17 different areas of cooperation where the partnership has expanded or made the journey through the years. Of course, there was education in the beginning, but then there was development studies, landscape ecology, computer science, ICT and sustainability, marine and ocean science, and renewable energies, and many more areas of cooperation which people have been jointly working together, throughout the years. And this is just a slide with some selectional projects that are still on or have recently been on. So you can see it's within ecological economics, education, computer science, of course, again, education, marine sciences, and also physics. And it's kind of smaller projects and huge projects with other partners, some like joint thesis projects or African Centers of Excellence. So a big variety of funding as well as form of projects. And then we were also thinking, in the past, there was kind of, I would say, like research and student exchange, kind of. Maybe I'm wrong, but mainly this has always been what we were talking about. And of course, for our students, they're like very fortunate and they love coming here. So every year, Roman is sending 10 to 12 students to Nelson Mandela University. A lot of them teacher training students, not only, but they enjoy the experience here, also quite often do some voluntary work experience or go to schools or Massifunde, for example. But of course we know that we have an imbalance on the student mobility, and we know about the challenges. And I'm really very happy that nowadays there's so many more formats of international learning, of international experiences being It's formats of internationalization at home or other hybrid, digital or short program formats. So I think it allows a lot more students on both sides to experience the partnership. So there's joint PhD supervisions in different subject areas. There's winter or summer schools, depending on where you are, with students and teaching staff from both sides. There's virtual lecture exchange or joint hybrid formats. We had digital intercultural trainings with students from both universities. Of course, continuing education, further training formats. There's lunchtime talks on, at least on one of the projects, teaching across borders, of course, research days, and the family weeks, which personally I appreciated a lot when I was a favorite and could, when I could join those. And now it's also photos, because photos are, yeah, say more than words usually. So this is the first signing in 1998. So the people involved are in the picture. And then the other two, this is when we came to Quebec with the Internationalizing Teacher Education project, and also with another delegation where we went from George campus to Quebec and luckily came along at Tsitsikamma, so, which was very nice for us. Yeah. Then more cooperation activities. Brenda and Jorge are sitting over there on the picture, yes. Logan, of course, talking to Professor Nietzsche, or Wolfgang, and a picture from George campus, and of course another picture from this campus. We had visits in Oldenburg as well through the years, many visits. Rolf Stumpf, I don't know exactly at the moment, maybe 2010 or something, he was VC and visited Oldenburg University, met with our president Uwe Schneidewind. We have the huge CERMISA project in front of our university. And then, now it's getting to my personal experience. You might wonder why I have the picture of the ferry there. Because people do not look so happy on it, but it was just the one I had in my files. And Logan was already mentioning her name. I have 22 years of experience in this partnership, by the way, because this photo was taken in the year of 2000. I've been working as an international student advisor at my university for a year. And what we did as well, of course, was like trips to the surroundings and also to the North Sea islands. And Lindy Weblau sitting there, very happy in the middle on the ferry. Probably climate and culture shock at the same time. And we went to Langeoog for mudflat walking. So it was a wonderful day, and I think everybody was happy in the end, but probably it was freezing in the moment when we took the picture. So she was the first PhD student that I met from Nelson Mandela University. A bit later, I met Logan, and again a bit later, I met Danai in Oldenburg. Yes. So more visits, international office visiting, our president's office also in this year, then a CERMISA meeting and teacher education just last week. Yeah, and some of you might have had a question mark what this family week thing is about. And when I became head of the office, I got an invitation from Nelson Mandela University inviting me to a family week. I never heard of that before, and I wasn't sure what this was about. But in 2010, I accepted, and I thought, okay, let's see what's going to happen as our key partner university, because of course I was keen on going. And since then, I think I've been part of 3 or 4 family weeks, and my colleague Roman as well has been part of a family week. And it's a week, in the beginning was just international office people from the closer partner universities of Nelson Mandela University who spent a week together. There was always an international symposium. Nico Juste organized that. We had the honor to be able to engage with the deans every time, of course with the VCs and the DVCs as well. And also there was time for networking and cultural experience as well. And by doing it again and again, you understand what the name means because you become a family. A meeting again and again. In the last years when this was taking place, there was also academics involved. There was always an academic topic, so we took one academic each from our university to join. And yeah, it was a great thing for myself. And you can see us with the colleagues, and also for us at the international offices, it's so important to connect with our colleagues and to know each other. If there's challenges or if there's something, it's important to have trust and to have like short ways of connecting each other, and this happens by these kind of things. And of course, during the year, we also meet at international conferences somewhere in the world, and this helps as well. Some more unique moments. We just called the slide because there were just some pictures which we really liked. Yeah, you see Karsten with Muki on the slide. You see Professor Nitsch again. I think this is Nico Juste's last family week when he was saying goodbye to the university. Me and Daniele in June, and some of our delegation, Martin Butler and Mario Dunkel, and one of our students. And it was like yesterday, I was just saying to Professor Bruder that usually at this place at the beach, we try to bump into some of our students. And this what happened in June, and this what happened again yesterday. So the lady with the surfboard, of course, thank you. She's one of our students, a sports student, so this is not just a fun activity. That was really nice. Yeah, and this was just last week. We had the honor to host a winter school in the Internationalizing Teacher Education, the DART project that we are having together with Nelson Mandela University and the University of Groningen, and also now the NHL Stenden. And all of these people have been in Oldenburg the previous week. And on the Sunday when they arrived, it's like with the first hug, you know, okay, the family is back together again. And it's always so nice to meet again and again. And I think everybody had a great time, fun, great academic experiences, and laughter and wonderful sessions. So, yes. I can also only say thank you for 25 wonderful years. 22, I was part of it already, and I might not make the 25 for the future totally at the university, but personally, I'm sure I will. On the slide, there were 16 different subject areas where we have been working together in our delegation. Right now, there's 3 more areas already, so we are hoping and looking forward on expanding the project areas. And of course, we are very much looking forward to welcoming you in Oldenburg next year in June. So thank you.
No, just to be honest, of course, Carsten Speck should have been with us today. And of course, it would have been his pleasure to reflect on a very long year partnership with the university. And as Jenka Schmidt mentioned, unfortunately, Carsten is not with us. He's, as we all heard, really sick. And I know how hard it is for him to know that we are here and he's not. So, of course, we are thinking about Carsten. He has severe back problems. And as you all know, if you have severe back problems, the worst thing that you can do is traveling 12 hours in the plane. So it was impossible for him to come here. And of course, what I can do is just to reflect over the last nearly 15 months being as president of the university. And one of the first things that I realized when starting my new duty in Oldenburg was that the university in Oldenburg does have 2 strategic partners. And one of the things they told me when I started my position in Oldenburg was, you have to go to 2 places very early. You have to go to Groningen and you have to go to Becher, quite early. And I thought, yes, let's arrange a trip to Becher. But then it was COVID, as we all know. So our first meeting, unfortunately, it was a VC meeting. It was a meeting via Zoom. But what I immediately felt, and it was quite interesting because it was during the day. And typically what we all experience is you have this Zoom meeting and switching between the places worldwide immediately. It's just having a meeting at the university, then meeting with the colleagues in South Africa, then have a meeting, whatever, with whomever. But within this 1 hour, I really felt, as a newbie, I was the new year in the round, I felt it was a real family, it was a friendship. That was quite astonishing, even via Zoom. And as you mentioned, Jenka, it was to have this kind of ambassador for university. And to have an ambassador for university at our university means we would like to have a real strong partnership, even on the level of the presidium. And I've seen a lot of pictures, and you told us about your personal experience. And that is the basis of a cooperation between universities. You must have this kind of personal relationship. But when it comes to strategic partnership, you have to reflect not only on the personal partnership, but you have to reflect what might be the areas we should come with a cooperation in the future. And for this kind of reflection, you need also someone sitting at the table in the presidium. And that is what we established by having ambassadors. And also listening to what your experience, personal experience, brings me up to the point, why do we have this kind of cooperation? Why is it so important? And for us, it is really important to learn. We learn from you. We learn from this partnership with your university. One aspect we learn is to have a different perspective on our own way of living. It was interesting to learn that you're thinking we are right on time when it comes to mobility. Might have been in the past. But it's interesting, it's really interesting. Just you need this kind of perspective. You need this kind of changing perspective that others are looking at you and others are telling how they feel about what you are doing. So, and as I mentioned, we would like to learn. It is quite important for universities, as I mentioned, to be connected in a worldwide community. We are a kind of symbol that we have to be open. We have to be really looking to this worldwide community when it comes to research and teaching. And just listening to you, for us it was good to learn that coming to Germany, it means you have to learn German. Still, that is not quite easy, as we all know. And so what we are doing at the moment, we are, and I mentioned it, we are talking with the city of Oldenburg. Because if we are claiming as university to become more international, if we are claiming to become more intercultural, then it's not easy if your city surrounding is not following you. So that is something we have to take into mind to discuss with our city, and that is what we are doing at the moment. We're discussing how to make even Oldenburg more international. Because when you arrive, and as you mentioned, and even sitting in the train, nowadays they changed let's say, on the trains running through Germany. They change from German and English, not in the local trains. In local trains, typically you have only German. But when you're driving in Oldenburg, it's an international city, then you have to listen also to English. So that is one thing we learned from the cooperation with you. And also, what we've learned from you is this kind of food, that you really like the food at the Christmas market. Okay. I will take it back. And also, I like your pictures from the drama in education. It was so vivid, it was so, so much power in the room. And it's also something that we really, I think, appreciate at our university, to have this kind of new experience and also just to learn from your approaches. And it was interesting to see some of my successors in the past, Michael Daxner signing for the first time this cooperation, Uwe Schneiderwind, who had just been also, I think, establishing and driving forward the kind of cooperation. And what I can promise to you, and maybe you have had also the feeling that this actual presidium is strongly behind this kind of cooperation. We really would like to take it to the next step. And I personally, I'm really fighting for this kind of cooperation. As I mentioned before, I think that our universities fit perfectly together, even stronger in this situation we do have at the moment, worldwide scene. It is a situation that is very difficult, not only for universities, but for all of us. It is a kind of, it's a time of, let's say, societies more closing up, to put it that way, and it's our duty to open up society. So that is what we would like to do with you. And I would like to take, finally, the opportunity to really thank all of you. I would like personally to thank my colleagues from our university. You are the ambassadors. You are the connecting people. I've seen the pictures, and I've seen a lot of smiling faces on these pictures, and that is why I think it's so important to have this kind of cooperation. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for taking the next steps. And also would like to thank people here in the room, but also in the video meeting from Quebeca's side. Also, thank you so much. And we have now several days. We have 3 days here. Tomorrow, oh no, it's 4 days. It's even 4 days until Friday to have personal meetings, to come up with new ideas for cooperation. As I mentioned, we will also look in the field of medicine. So that had been brief reflections, too long for 1 year. But maybe it's also an outlook in the future. And I'm really looking forward to the next things that might happen. Thank you so much.
Anya Hallecker from DAD. She has been able to join this session, and I thought, since we have her here, that it would be fair for her to share her reflections as well. So Anya, in the previous session, we had 10-minute reflections from selected panel members, and as a significant funder of this partnership between Nelson Mandela University and the University of Oldenburg, we'll be very grateful for you to share your reflections as well before we commence the discussion on the 5-year roadmap. Over to you, Anya.
Yeah, thank you very much, and hello to all of you. We have the Falling Walls Labs. It's a competition worldwide, and 3 South African young scholars presented, and 2 of them won. First prize and second prize. So South Africa was very successful, and 80 winners from Global Labs presented. So yeah, I'm still excited when I think back, but now I'm sitting on my desk here, not able to join you there in Port Elizabeth, Quebec, what I very much like. I had the pleasure to be with you during my first year here in South Africa. It was 2018. It was in the context of selection of scholarships or scholarship holders, not scholarship. And this, of course, is something I enjoy most when I'm involved in these kind of cooperations, that I can see the young scholars taking up these kind of opportunities and growing. And of course, the best job you can do is that you're a part of such a context providing opportunities. And as such, the DED, of course, is a funding body, but we just have the money. So the cooperation that is going on, the growing contexts like the Center of Excellence, where we have the scholarship selection, this is what you are doing, the universities, the scientists, and yeah, cooperations as we see here are long-lasting, are sustainable. It's not just one workshop, one project, one scholarship that is handed over. It's growing more and more, involving more and more people, giving opportunities to so many. So my personal view on such cooperation, of course, this is the best way of giving funding. If we get applications from such contexts, this is of course something always to support from my perspective. I'm not selecting, as you know. It's always an academic committee doing so, but they did well. Always supporting your cooperation with funding in different contexts. And we will have the chance during the panel discussion to look a bit on this aspect as well. So thank you very much for inviting me, even in a virtual format, and go ahead. I hope, there are many, many years to come in this cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anya. We really appreciate those reflections, and I can say that DAD funds a significant number of the collaborative projects, so we thank you for that support as well. Colleagues, we're going to move into the discussion on the 5-year roadmap. I have been reminded several times this morning that this is a conversation among family members. And so as a family, we are having a caucus or indaba on what the strategic research focus areas will be over the next 5 years. And so to start the conversation, we will have Dr. Mgwebi first present on the roadmap, followed by Professor Dr. Bruder, and then we will open up the conversation for discussion with the audience.
Good morning, colleagues. Good morning to our colleagues who are joining us online. Thank you very much, Anya, for joining us from DAD. I'm supposed to provide a roadmap, but I'm actually wanting to trigger in conversation for us to develop a roadmap. And I'm only providing what I think are some guidelines, and I do have my proposals of what we could do better, but I think the actual real concrete solutions will come from a conversation on what we should do. I've already been introduced. My name is Thandi Mgwebi. One of the key things we've learned about partnerships, and I think that has come out of this partnership as well. I hear people saying it was a key partnership, and now it's a strategic partnership. And I heard Anya talking about sustainable partnership. So for vibrant, strategic, and sustainable partnerships, I think this is an example of such a partnership. And the important thing about such a partnership, that our partnership, is that it needs to be reviewed. You need to poke at it different times so that you see if there are any areas that need refinement. But what we've learned about strategic partnership is that you need to support the whole partnership ecosystem. If the whole system is not supported, something is going to give. And the ecosystem, it starts from the students themselves, the research managers who are actually managing the partnership, the research administration who are actually doing the admin, and the research partners who are part of the, not just giving the money, but also providing experience for the people in the partnership. And the important thing in that is investment for long term. I don't know if in the 25 years, Yenka, we've actually put aside money to say this is going to be our 10-year budget for this partnership. And I think it's important to do that going forward so that it's a sustained partnership. There's investment. And then the monitoring, evaluation, and learning from successes and failures. I think we've been doing that in this kind of partnership, but I think we need to talk more about these successes and in a changing landscape. The second thing we've learned is strengthening research relationships and research systems. Our countries have got different research systems and the contexts are different. And in a 25-year-long relationship, you're definitely going to bring in other partners to enhance this relationship. And the context of those other partners or other role players are different, and therefore the contexts need to be understood. And the contexts in different countries, they change with time, and it's important to have that review all the time. And I can't say this more, I've said this in the beginning, investment in the research or process management itself, so that there is adequate support for people who are traveling between our institutions and people who are coordinating the processes in our institutions. I've said something about the budgeting for partnership building within the partnership. It's more like we're going to become a network, so you need to network the network itself. And to network the network, you need money. And so the partnership building is part of a successful, sustainable, and vibrant partnership. And also to implement processes. Oh no, I missed something there. Follow-on funding and support for research outputs. When Logan was speaking here, I was listening attentively on your research outputs and what you've done, the books, the outputs that have come out, the students that have graduated, even the academics that have graduated. But I think we need to take stock of those outputs and see if there's follow-on funding that's required. Our university is very much focused on now, in this phase, on promoting innovation and entrepreneurship. Are there any opportunities for students to learn from the German system on bringing in entrepreneurial partners, or are we as a university learning from each other on our entrepreneurial university arrangements? So it's important to have some follow-on funding and support for research outputs, particularly for the small projects that come out of the partnership so that they can be scaled. So follow-on funding is important. And the last thing I want to mention that we've learned on successful partnerships is implementing processes and procedures that sustain the partnership, the review of governance arrangements. I know we don't want to be too rigid in managing an academic partnership, but there are governance issues that need to be looked at when we are implementing some arrangement, and also revisiting the terms of the research partnerships. In this case, it could be revisiting the terms of a research group between our partners, or the terms of our arrangement as we get into a mature, well, I think our relationship is mature, but as we review the relationship. So what I think we should focus on in this roadmap of our next 25 years, as I've heard, firstly is the fact that we all have a vision of societal impact. I was listening to Professor Bruder talking earlier about the impact to society. Our university also has got a strong appetite for impact to society, and all our programs geared for societal impact. So we've got that shared a value and shared goal of societal impact. So we need to identify these shared values and impact that we seek to create and have that cleared and that communicated. It's already happening. I mean, the 25 years, obviously, we've got something common, but it's important that that is communicated. We seek to create, to have a good international positioning and impact globally, but impact in our local contexts. We also, within our university, have got a growing number of early and mid-career research profile within the university. So we would like dedicated support for early career research for enhancement and support. And that we can do through structured programs within our partnership. You learning from us and we learning from you, because this is a partnership, but also providing opportunities for early career academics in the spaces that we want to partner in. So that becomes a focus of the next while. But also just to improve and enhance a research culture within the university. I mean, you spoke about family weeks and all of that. We can rebrand or we can introduce new initiatives to improve or to strengthen our research cultures within our institutions by learning from each other. But I think if we are looking towards a shared impact, we need some social impact indicators in specific projects. Over 25 years, I'm sure we can identify those indicators. They take time, the social impact indicators take time, but we can identify them in the projects that have run for more than 20 years, and because that impact is now shown. The second thing I want to speak about is, in a partnership like this, we also want to, the networks establish themselves. I know, for example, we recently signed an addendum to the MOU that was signed a long time ago, and that addendum was adding a partner to deliver on a project in coastal and marine sciences. And the networks is growing. I may not have given it a better term here to say delivery partners, but it's more like our research partners for R&D activities. So we're going to establish these networks within the partnership, but we are the leaders in the partnership. And the networks are important so that we can provide better support for our students and for our two institutions. Communication, I think we are already doing that, enabling the sharing of stories. I think we've got beautiful stories that we can learn from amongst ourselves. We're doing that here. Amongst the stakeholders, I think it's important if we working with communities and with partners in our projects, we show the value of the international partners in our social projects, because that enhances the value that we give or that we provide or that we bring to the partnerships within our local contexts. The fourth point is on the actual structural formulation of a network within our projects. So we've got this partnership and we've got projects within the partnership, and within the projects, it's important that the members within the projects understand the value of this partnership, understand the value of the impact that we were seeking, understand the objectives of what we're trying to do towards that shared societal impact. So the members within projects are important elements in making the partnership more vibrant and strategic. And measurement and reporting, I think we are giving ourselves now, we are doing that now, that we're reporting on what has happened in the past. We could do this more, I think, on an annual basis or so that we measure the progress on our projects that we will champion in the next while. So what has been identified so far, this was mentioned in the previous session, multiple areas of collaboration with the medical school, the links between sustainability and law, the collaboration with humanities faculty in our university in the areas of linguistic and cultural studies, medical sociology, gender studies, collaboration with several entities in the areas of marine research, biodiversity, mobile health, and green energies. I've added sustainability and futures literacy. But I think these areas are going to expand, and we're going to have lots of areas. And as we grow and we get known within our universities, everyone is going to want to be involved. So I think it's important to have a grouping of research areas or hubs. I've just called them hubs for lack of a better word. And then for each hub, we have champions from both institutions. And then the champions will serve the purpose of linking the faculties and the different research groups. And I've put here, just out of my own choices, the proposed champions based on what we've discussed. Ocean and Marine Sciences champion, education champion, energy champion, I've called this human and social dynamics to be inclusive, but basically referring to our institutional theme of cultures and, all the human and social sciences related aspects. But this could be divided into, I guess, 2 or 3. And then law and biodiversity. And I think we've spoken about these. Prof. Bruder, you spoke about some of these areas when you were speaking about the future. And I think if we've got champions, selected champions that would be organizing the conversations between the 2 universities and linking researchers between our 2 universities, this could work well, but that's up for discussion. And then within our own university, we are in the process of building an institute, Mandela Institute for Sustainable Futures. And initially, I always say this all the time, that initially it's built under the 3 themes of ocean sciences and blue economy. I know Odwa was here earlier, was saying I never mentioned Saimi, but Saimi is under the blue economy. And then the environment, and the 3rd one under health and well-being. But there are themes that feed into all of these: marine studies, engineering fields, marine robotics, and all of those listed there, conservation, agriculture, up to access to healthcare. And you can see there's a long list that you can build linking to all these, just the 3. And we know that in the future, these will grow. And these are underpinned by cross-cutting themes of food systems, gender, big data, education, and partnerships. And the core drivers or principles within the Institute will be transdisciplinarity. We know transdisciplinarity requires multidisciplinary settings, mentorship, collaboration, capacity building, and networking. But what this lends itself, it lends itself into 3 main research hubs within that institute. One being the Ocean Sciences Campus, which you will see tomorrow. We will have our session there tomorrow. All the ocean and marine science international and work packages to be driven from that campus. George Campus, which is one of our campus outside the Eastern Cape, and all the biodiversity and ecology, sustainability related initiatives to be driven from that campus. And then the health sciences and medical school campus. I've called this a nano hub, but it's actually more than that. I think it's more of drug delivery systems in partnership with the Faculty of Science. Cross-cutting, and that you cannot put under one campus, the education, humanities, and the social sciences to underpin all of these research hubs. And I want to propose that going forward, additional modalities. I know, Yanka, you did mention how we've been doing this, and in terms of what is have been the mode of the partnership and student exchanges and so on. Not taking away any of that. I think postdoctoral exchanges to add into this would be a useful undertaking. But that postdoctoral exchange to include some kind of industry exposure, because in the world that we're in, industry involvement is important so that there's more innovation-related ideas that we can also extract from industry. And with the graduate and undergraduate exchanges, I'm proposing reciprocal fee waivers. I don't know if you've been doing this, Priscilla, but the fee waivers such that if we have students coming from Germany, Oldenburg University here, we take the cost of the fees of Mandela. Same you do when we send our students to Oldenburg University. And then some course supervision and mentoring arrangements to be formalized. And that could lead to a number of things. One of them to explore would be the issue of joint degrees. I mean, I'm not suggesting that we do that now, but the university is open to joint degrees within the applicable laws. And then also an exchange of research management professionals from faculty level right up to institutional level. I think that would benefit the partnership more to understand the context better and the local environments better. And I'm proposing a Mandela Oldenburg Researcher Links program, because in the beginning I said we need to budget for the partnership. If we've got a Researcher Links program that would send academics between the two institutions in a structured manner, that would provide, I think, a much better coordinated program throughout the faculty so that they can benefit the same from that Researcher Links program. And of course, as a country, we're open to research chairs, and as Mandela University as well. I know there's a negotiation happening now. It's still in the negotiation phase for a research chair between University of Oldenburg and Nelson Mandela University. But we can have more. It doesn't have to be one research chair. It could be research chairs, preferably funded by industry in the areas where we want collaboration strengthened. That's all I have for now. Sorry, I don't have something put on you to say these are the 3 things, but these are my proposal. And I think it's a good basis for a discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Tandy. It was a perfect presentation, and it was exactly what we would like to establish with this kind of roadmap. And I will elaborate a little bit about what is behind a roadmap and why talking about a roadmap. But first of all, I really would like to say thank you to DAAD, Anja Halaka. It's good to have you with us. And thank you very much for supporting this cooperation. It's really a pity that you are not with us, because if you would be here, then you would see what it means to support this kind of cooperation. You would see a room full of friends, and you would see how close the cooperation went over the last years. So I think we are really on a good track. And what we would do with this kind of session is, let's say, talk about the next steps. We have a real, vivid, ongoing, strong cooperation between our 2 universities. It's not deniable. So what we are thinking now is to consolidate, to even strengthen this kind of cooperation, and to make it, let's say, long-lasting also in the future. And what our kind of experience is with this kind of cooperation between universities is, of course, there are a lot of expectations starting this kind of cooperation. And typically this expectation is on a personal level. You have researchers, they would like to cooperate, and you have expectations, and they are fulfilled on a personal level. But when it comes to an institutional level, then it's even more difficult to, let's say, formulate this kind of expectations. And what our expectation over the last years is that it's helpful to have this kind of roadmap. And a roadmap means you're writing down your expectations, and you're looking at your expectations from time to time. And sometimes it's helpful because all of us, we do have this kind of expectation, and we realize over the years, maybe they are not fulfilled, and maybe they are not able to fulfill. Might be. So that is one idea behind having a roadmap. And of course, I think it's perfect time. It's still morning, isn't it? Yes. I feel it's not morning. Might be after a long travel here to South Africa. So in this morning, we would like to have a discussion with you to listen to your expectations, to your recommendations, your thoughts about a roadmap, because roadmaps are not formulated purely by VCs or presidents or presidiums. They are based on the thoughts of the whole faculties. So that is our idea, just to get in contact with you and to listen to your recommendations for writing down the roadmap. But just let me give you some thoughts. What we think should be written down in kind of a roadmap. And first of all, it is about focusing, because if you have a cooperation between two universities, there are so many fields, and sometimes you're going in too many different fields, and they are very small and little fields, and in each and every institution, resources are limited. Not only money, but it's talking about time. And if your resources are limited, it makes sense to focus on some areas. And what you mentioned, that does not mean that we are limited in the fields we are thinking about. But if we are selecting some of the fields, we should go more into depth in that kind of fields. So just a little bit more focusing and just concentrating what we really would like to have. Second thing is, and you mentioned it, if you have this kind of roadmap, it means you have to look at on a regular basis. So what we are thinking is to have this kind of, I would call it board meeting or whatever, to have a regular meeting each and every year. Might be 1 year at one place, second year at the other place, but to have a regular meeting on the level of the presidium and with your VC and so on. So I think this would be good to have a regular looking at. And thirdly, you mentioned the measurement. And typically you are talking about, and the colleagues know what I'm talking about, key indicators. So typically key indicators. Politicians are always asking about key indicators of university. Now we are on the roll again asking about key indicators. But I wouldn't, and it's not about just numbers. And as you mentioned, it's not about numbers. On your slides, I like it very much. It's written, change the world. Our key indicator is change the world. But if this is, I would say, highest level, sometimes it's good to bring it down to some keys that shouldn't be only on a number level. It's not talking about quantitative measurements. It's also about quality measurements. And quality measurements might be, for example, to establish, as you mentioned, research chairs. It's not about the number, but it's about the level of cooperation. So it might be establishing a research chair is the next level of quality in a kind of cooperation. So this would be of interest. Or I've just carefully looked at your proposal, and it's written about a graduate school. For example, establishing a graduate school might be part of a roadmap. And then we could ask, after several years, was it successful? Did we establish this kind of graduate school? Or what might be the hurdles to come up with such an idea? So, and also talking about key indicators and talking about not only numbers but quality, it was very good, and I strongly support this idea of having social impact indicators. This is not easy because typically universities are not looked at from this point of social impact, but as I mentioned earlier today, for our university it is of importance to have this kind of social impact. And it would be of interest to have a joint looking at social impacts because of our partnership. And I think both of us can strengthen each other because of having this kind of social impact. So also, and finally, what might be good to have this kind of roadmap, now also looking at DAAD, because you have hundreds of partnerships worldwide, thousands, I guess now, many partnerships worldwide. And we think that our partnership is kind of a role model when it comes to cooperation between German and South African university. I'm quite convinced that this kind of partnership is a role model, what we are doing here. Not only because it's 25 years old, because of the way we are interacting, the way of openness, trustness that we do have. But if people ask, you are a role model, what are you doing? And typically what you hear, and I guess it's true for the DAAD side, typically you will hear about projects, you will hear about stories, you will hear about personal relationships. And what we would like to have with this roadmap to more deeply explain the different fields and the measurements and the results we do have over the years. This would be of interest, just to learn, and for example, also in research management. Just to have an exchange in research management and to make more professionalization also in that field. So this would be of interest, just to communication to the outside, why this kind of cooperation might be a role model. So just some thoughts about the next step of cooperation and why underlying it with this kind of roadmap. Just to even make it more stronger and to make it more easy to communicate. And finally and lastly, I would say also to include more of our colleagues on our side in Oldenburg, but also on the side of NMU. If you have this kind of roadmap, then you can easily communicate. You can go to colleagues within your university, tell them we do have this kind of roadmap. One aspect is, for example, sustainability. And would you like to participate in this kind of roadmap? It's also stimulated from the top of the university. So I think now we have the input from our side, and now we are open for the discussion, hopefully. Yeah, thank you.
So thank you very much, President Broda and Dr. Mgwebi, for setting the scene and providing some recommendations for where the partnership can lead us to. And your proposals are based on conversations that have started already between the colleagues. So now I want to open it up for discussion. You have heard some of the proposals from the university leaders, and we were very interested now to hear recommendations from the floor. Yes, Professor Maseko, please.
Thank you so much, Prof. Broda and Dr. Mgwebi. I was happy to see the humanities much more explicit this time. It's been a concern, and obviously when we had a conversation in June with the colleagues from Oldenburg, we did talk about the need for us to establish a productive relationship from the faculty side of things. So I'm happy with that. And obviously, I think you have explicitly put some areas of possible collaboration. We also have our conversation later in the week, and I think we may add or even explain further some of the areas that we think are important in the faculty. One of which is I like the prize paper project, because it aligns a lot with the archival project in the faculty, which is also a bigger university theme on memory, origins, culture, and heritage. So I'm really excited about that project. It also connects us with other countries in Europe, which is England, where most of our archives are, which we're working within the humanities. So I'm excited with that. Just 3 areas that I thought I should just ask you to think about. I'm always concerned when we talk about industry-funded research or chairs, because humanities are not professional disciplines, and therefore it becomes difficult to go to engineering company or mechanics or medicine and whatever. So I think we need to really think about other entities that can support such research chairs. I was speaking, I can't remember from the colleagues here, about possibilities of collaborating with UNESCO, for instance, for research chairs in UNESCO. And then the second one is when you talk about the student mobility and capacitating staff, one area of need in the faculty is early career academics. So we have, we're a big faculty. We have staff that don't necessarily have senior degrees. And we constantly need support in
growing them or capacitating them in terms of acquisition of senior degrees. And so I'm wondering if that could be a bit explicit there as well. And then lastly, we're also looking, Dr. Mkwebe, at possibilities of offering joint degrees. And I know that there's possibly implications with our accreditation processes in the country, but perhaps I think it's something that is worth exploring. And I don't know, Babalwa, if you want this, because that's going to come from your area, for instance, and Sylvia's areas. We're already talking about that now. So joint degrees is one other area for me that is important. Thank you.
Thanks, Prof. Maseko. I don't know if Kwesi wants to comment on the industry partnerships, because I think from perhaps an engineering and natural science perspective, that's one pathway to research chairs. But from the part of the humanities, there are definitely other funders within the system that can be leveraged. Please, Kwesi. Try that other one.
Thank you. My name is Kwesi Mzilikazi, and I'm Director of Research Support and Management at Mandela. And one of the key areas where we provide support is in the area of research chairs and their establishment at the university. I 100% agree with Prof. Maseko that different disciplines lend themselves differently to different funders. So we pay very careful attention to what kind of funder would fund what kind of research at the university. So I am in agreement, and we do recognize that there is a need for differentiation.
Okay, I'll take your comment, and then there's a hand up there. Go ahead.
Yes, Professor Maseko, I don't know if she introduced herself. She's our Dean of the Humanities at our university. I think you're speaking about two things. One on the discipline itself, the other ones on the modalities. So I think it will also be important, maybe perhaps at the refinement stage of this, to have some kind of a framework document of the partnership, where we have what we are partnering on and how we are partnering, because the issue of the joint degrees and what else did you say? The support for early careers. That's what I've proposed, that it becomes the underpinning of all the projects that we are doing. I also do want to say, though, that I was reading something recently about companies in changing their budget for social impact. So there is a window of opportunities, even in the large engineering companies, to be persuaded to look at social dynamics related projects from their social responsibility budgets. So in as much as there is differentiation, I think there is an opportunity to have a partnership with large R&D companies to look at humanities and social sciences, because of the transdisciplinary nature of the impact that we want to have on communities. That would be my comment, but thanks for clarifying the needs in the Faculty of Humanities.
Okay, then I will take two hands, one at the back and one here in front. Oh, and then Prof. Sheldon at the back. And may I ask that you introduce yourself and then share your comment?
Yes. Hello to everyone. My name is Professor Dagmar Freist, and I'm the Dean of the Faculty of Humanities at Oldenburg University. And I would like to underline that the humanities not only serve as an add-on for scientific research, but I'm convinced that they play a central role to provide us with a critical reflection on our presence by looking also at historical dimensions of what we do. And in preparing my visit here, I came across the institution research themes of Nelson Mandela University, and I was quite impressed. I'm not going to read out all of them, but the one I, from my own background, think is really, really central, and I think the partnership could really develop from there as well, and it's number 5, and it's called Origins, Cultural Heritage and Memory. And I think this research theme is central and fits the kind of program behind the name Nelson Mandela University, but also what we stand for at Oldenburg University, naming it Karl von Ossietzky. You can't compare the two figures, of course, but both of them were central in kind of pushing our ways of thinking by getting irritated by our presence, asking questions. And so I think the humanities are almost play a core role when you talk about scientific innovation, etc., because you want to reflect also what kind of society we want. And now to come back to this original idea we just heard about, heritage and memory from Oldenburg, we could provide a project which is internationally linked. It was mentioned, the Prize Papers project, because it gives you a huge archive which allows us across the oceans, the continents, to reflect not only about our past, but how it was entangled. And it creates a nice bridge to scientific digitalization, etc., because we could work together on digitizing our past by putting it online, and digitization processes in the context of cultural heritage are very, very vital. Because, and this is my last sentence, I'm not going to give a paper, but digitization and putting things online, of course, probes the question of how do we prevent things, what terms do we use, how do we present our joint history, which is full of conflict, but also full of resistance, full of, starting towards new areas. So my plea, of course, is also to make the humanities part of this hub you mentioned, in the crossroads, obviously, with social and sciences and natural sciences, but also on its own right as humanities.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. Please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Martin Butler. I'm from the School of Linguistics and Cultural Studies at Oldenburg. And first of all, I would like to emphasize what Dagmar Freist has just said. I think that's important to position the humanities in their own right, and she gave an example of how that could move forward. The other thing I liked about what you were talking was the distinction between disciplines and fields on the one hand, and modalities of exchange and interaction on the other. So this is a plea to include the modalities of our exchange in the roadmap, because I think if you want to develop a strategic partnership, that is for both institutions, that's an institutional challenge that affects infrastructures, that affects personnel on many different levels. And I would like to emphasize that it's not only the research themes or the themes in teaching and learning, but also a lot of other different sections in the university that will be affected and need to be transformed in view of developing the strategic partnership. So maybe we should also mind the modalities a little more in the roadmap, so that we're not kind of looking back one year after the other and see this list of wishes, but not adequate frameworks of their implementation. So that would be my addition to the roadmap.
Thank you very much for that. Let me see, it was always muted. Sorry, the colleagues online say they can't hear us. We appear to have a technical issue.
I'm not sure. Maybe it's Angus's one that's muted.
This one. Just unmute yourself. No, if I unmute this one, there will be feedback. See, that will lead to feedback. So that's not the right one. Okay, hang on. Let's try and figure this out so that think it's
Computer, because it's saying this is one, I think that's providing this out.
Thank you so much. Can you hear us now online? Can you give a thumbs up? Okay, we're back. So we're back in time, Prof. Sheldon, to hear your comment. Please go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Just about morning still. I'm Marshall Sheldon. I'm the Dean for Faculty of Engineering, the Built Environment and Technology. And I'd like to touch on the part in your presentation that related to energy. For me, that's also very timely because just on Friday, the Just Energy Transition Investment Plan 2023 to 2027 for South Africa was actually shared. And I think there is great opportunities there in terms of the 3 areas that they highlighted. And the 3 areas related to renewable energy, which was mentioned before. It related to transport in terms of e-mobility, and then obviously GH2, which is green hydrogen. But I think there's opportunities one can definitely explore because we are doing some work in that area, and from what I heard before, they're also doing some work in that area. But what I wanted to also indicate is I think that's also a good opportunity for multi-interdisciplinary research. Because if you look at the just part of the just energy transition and to what the humanities indicated earlier, there's a lot of social dynamics to that, because the just part is about doing the energy transition in a just way, in a fair way, and reskilling and upskilling people that was in traditional energy environment. So I think even there might be opportunities where we in humanities could work together on some of the projects there. So that's just my input in terms of potential way forward.
Thanks, Prof. Sheldon. Do we have any more comments from the room? Okay, yes, please go ahead in front, and then there's a hand at the back.
Thank you so much. Good day, everyone. My name is Victor Chike. I'm from the chemistry department. So I was just, whilst you were presenting Dr. Tandy, I was seriously looking for something that touches the Faculty of Science directly, and in particular chemistry, because for instance, we often use the word sustainability. Globally, like with regards to sustainability, it often goes between energy and materials. So I'm particularly a material scientist, and I feel like a lot of collaboration needs to be done in that aspect, because Germany has done a lot with regards to sustainability, plastic recycling, bioeconomy, and so on. And I feel like Africa is lagging behind. You just need to go around the city to see that for yourself. Our very own university, South Campus and North, sits on a nature reserve. So I feel like those kind of research, because for me, just concluding my PhD research now, the chemistry department, I've not really had such avenues to even share myself with the guys from humanities and so on. I know we often hear a lot about introducing humanity to sciences, but I feel like it has to be a double-edged sword. We need to introduce science to humanity. So sometimes we need people that would even help us communicate the science. You know, why shouldn't I throw away my plastic bag on the floor, and so on and so forth? The teachers and so on. So yeah, so that is just my point. I wrote a lot of stuff down here, but I just felt a bit of lack of representation from my side, and I didn't see our dean here, so probably we'll send him an email.
You may.
Absolutely. I think that's why I would like to have champions. For example, if we're talking sustainability, and then there's a champion for the sustainability part, and then you get throughout the faculties to look at or sustainable futures, and then we look at as a global theme, and then we would be looking at the different aspects, because it's really broad. Otherwise, we'll have all these the whole university, basically, and all the disciplines, and the disciplines time, if they are 20, it will be times 20, because they overlap. But I am with you. I know I did mention drug development, for example, and then I didn't mention material science. So, but I mean, it's all under, if there's an interest within the university and we can find linkages with University of Oldenburg, certainly that would be supported under a global theme of sustainability. I know also Brenda was asking me, I was not explicit about the ICT for sustainability, and yet we're talking about research chairs in ICT for sustainability, but that's the same kind of response. But it's not because they're not important, but it's also to frame the partnership so that we've got global themes. But of course, if we want to put it as explicit, we can.
There was a hand at the back, and then I'll take yours in front. Please go ahead. Yes.
My name... now I think it works. My name is Hans-Gert Notwang. I'm the Dean of the Medical Faculty. And so I'm in a kind of difficult situation because I neither know your healthcare system nor your medical faculty, really. So it's a little bit out of the blue, but from all I heard this morning, 3 ideas came up. One is that we have the same challenge as the teacher education, that we have to deal in Germany with a greater variety and diversity in medicine. For example, looking on the patients showing up at the general physician or at the hospital, they are much more diverse now than about 10 or 15 years ago in Germany. And that might be a common thing, a topic with a teacher's education, that they have to deal with a greater diversity in the classroom and we in the hospital or in the healthcare system. And how do we raise the awareness for either for the teacher or for the physicians to deal with this diversity? That would be kind of the first point we could explore. The second point are kind of a summary of 2 or 3 keywords on your slides. That was the virtual hearing clinics, mobile health, and so on. So we in Oldenburg have a kind, we were founded as a medical faculty to provide healthcare to the region surrounding us. And it's a really rather rural region, which where it is difficult to really keep the physicians there because they normally move to the city and to the hospitals. And so we try to explore things like the virtual hearing clinics, mobile health, and digitalization to provide healthcare to the region, and also put a lot of effort into how to build kind of local centers of healthcare points that help to support the local healthcare structures. And I don't know whether you have a kind of similar approach or challenge, but that I will like to explore on Thursday and Friday. And the second point would be big data. We currently think about, of course, medicine and big data. I don't want to say they are synonymous, but they are, of course, when we talk about big data, medicine is always one of the front runners. And we are currently thinking about building up a scientific center for data science and artificial intelligence. And it might be also very interesting to see how we can connect on this issue.
Yeah, my name is Sylvia Pritsch. I'm coordinating the Center for Women's and Gender Studies and the BA Gender Studies program. And now I would like to add another big subject, this is gender. And so we are in a quite double position because on the one hand, we have our own research topics, we have our academic standards and everything. And on the other hand, it's a cross-sectional subject, no? As you called it, ground-cutting theme. So that's really also a vast field of work, and I'm very happy to be here and to see a lot of possibilities of collaboration. But for this, we also need more capacity. So I think it's very important that the questions of gender and also diversity are supported by all of the other areas, so we cannot do it alone. We can work on a certain field together, we will do that, but not for the whole project. And gender, or the question of equality, of discrimination, and so on, that's important for all these areas. So I would like to underline that. Thank you.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you for adding that dimension to the conversation. And I think there are meetings planned on Thursday to take these discussions forward. Yes, please go ahead, Prof.
Yeah, thank you. Again, I have a short response to the colleague from the chemistry department for two reasons. One is that I think that science communication in these days is really an important topic, and we need a talk that is across the sciences and the humanities. And the second thing is I've just finished a project on the interconnection between science and fiction, which was called Fiction Meets Science. And I say so because I just published an article on it's about to be published on Breaking Bad, which is a TV series on a chemistry teacher beginning to sell drugs. And I think that's doing something in science communication. So we too need to talk. I'm very happy to meet you here. I just used this plenary to get into touch. Thank you.
Isn't it wonderful when these connections happen? Okay. So some great themes emerging from the conversations. Is there anything else that we've overlooked? I think the suggestion was made about modalities. I am inclined to allow for multiple modalities. Yes, Babalwa, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mensah. And just to endorse my colleague Sylvia on some of the issues that she mentioned, gender questions being the underlying theme through the different themes for the cooperation, but also just to mention maybe a possibility of inviting colleagues from the academic development unit, to help in the framework, especially when we talk about joint or shared qualifications and all of that, just to get a sense of what does that mean in terms of governance between the two universities. Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. I hope they will form part of your meetings on Thursday. But the invitation, especially for today and tomorrow, was shared with the Mandela community. So we hope that they will participate. Are there any other hands? Yes, Jorge, please.
Yes, thank you very much. So maybe Andreas Hein and me, we are representing the computing science of Oldenburg University here with several activities in the past. But I would like to raise also the topic of new professorships we got in Oldenburg. So we are quite happy that we got 6 new professorships, so about digitalization, not just in computing sciences, but with a focus on it. And of course, also we do have the Office Institute, the Oldenburg Computing Science Institute. Brenda visited. So there's an opportunity for these new professors also to be involved and to be engaged. And I'm very, very sure and confident that they might also have a closer look to these activities here, what we are doing in Port Elizabeth. So just as a comment that they might be very happy to join us later.
That's great. So you and Brenda have a joint session tomorrow. Brenda, please go ahead.
No, I'm sure.
We do have a session tomorrow, but I also just wanted to mention to the colleague from chemistry that we are also doing quite a lot of work within our research area on awareness of sustainability, recycling, all of that. So we would love to collaborate further. And also to our colleague, German colleague at the back, in terms of communication and science, but specifically on data literacy and digital literacy and environmental awareness. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Brenda. Okay, so we've covered a broad spread this morning. Are there any other burning matters before we round up the session? Okay, Dr. Mgwebi?
No, I would be curious I think we've got some students in the room. I'd be curious to hear what would the students like?
Maybe we can look at the issues of modalities as the students think. So I'm looking out for the hands from the students. But while you are thinking, perhaps we can start a conversation around the modalities, because there are various modalities. We've mentioned the joint degrees. We've mentioned the possibility of fee waiver, and how that would work, the kind of support that would be needed in order to make that a success. Of course, the budget aspect of it, sharing that component between the two institutions. So all of that consideration will be included in the proposed framework, so that we are flexible. There's a guideline, but we are flexible to the needs of researchers and postgraduate students who are participating.
May I add something?
Yes, please, Anya, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, to the students and of course the lecturers as well. We have a joint program together with the NRF where we award 60 masters and 60 PhD scholarships per year here in South Africa. And what is quite nice in the context of a cooperation is that a 3 to 6 months research stay in Germany is inbound into the scholarship. So we, of course, from the DND side, we would like to see applications in these contexts, because it's always nice to get new students in that are not aware of what Germany has to offer. But on the other side, it's great to have students that are already bound into these kind of cooperations using the opportunity to go to Germany in this context. So please, think about it if you are looking for scholarships. And for the lecturers, if you already are experienced in what Germany is doing, if you visited Germany, we are building up a network of professors in the universities that are able to sit in the selection committees for these scholarships. So, of course, please send me an email if you are ready to be part of this network. Yeah? So it's an individual funding. Of course, the selection processes are open, but it would be wonderful to have applications from that side as well. Then just one thing that I want to mention in the context of topics. We will have most probably a call coming out next year, March, for a Center of Excellence on Food Security and Data Sciences, or Food Systems and Data Sciences. The German university together with the South African university may apply, and another partner from the continent, from the African continent, Sub-Sahara Africa, should be involved. So this is a trend, of course, that we can see in funding, not only with the DAD. The network should be expanded from north-south to south-south-north partnerships. We see it in the centers of excellence, we see it in global centers. And here in South Africa, as far as I know, are strong networks from Nelson Mandela University as well towards the sub-Saharan context, and they are making use of that as well. If you think about cooperation, I very much like what Tanya said about networking the networks. Yes, think it broader in that sense. But yeah, there are a lot of topics, important topics that you already mentioned. So just to add food systems, and yeah, that's mainly from my side. And I wish you well with all the ongoing cooperations. If you need any information, come back to me. I'm there to introduce funding streams that we have for such sort of cooperations. It might be dual programs, it might be the new SDG partnership programs, and so on and so on. So, wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, Anya. We will share your email address with the delegates so that they can contact you. And we've noted the call that will be coming out for the COE in food systems and data science. So we can start planning for that. I also think that in terms of the modalities that are supported, in the South African context, joint degrees help to stretch the rand. And built into that is not only opportunity for international collaboration, but it also allows opportunity to spend time abroad. And so Anya made reference to the DAD program that provides research visits for a couple of months abroad, and so something similar over the duration of the joint degree. So yes, that's a model that works well in the South African context. Okay. All right, there are two hands. Gavin first, and I'll take the hand at the back.
Thanks very much, Dr. Mensah. I'm Gavin Rishworth from the Department of Zoology at the Nelson Mandela University. Thanks, this is a very enlightening and encouraging discussion, and I'm very positive about the future under this platform. I do think that one thing that perhaps is an opportunity is the Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere differences between our universities present us with unique opportunities with regards to case studies and different ways of doing things. And I think that we're talking a lot about sustainability. Dr. Mgwebi spoke about the new Institute for Sustainable Futures at our university. We recognize that without a healthy planet, we can't have healthy people. And we know that we've got a lot of good links in the marine and oceans sciences space, and that feeds very directly into a healthy planet. But I think that the United Nations, for example, have recognized that restoration of ecosystems is an important focus in the next decade. And I think we've got an opportunity. Northern Hemisphere, in the German sense, arguably is a more developed and transformed landscape, and we in South Africa have arguably a more natural condition landscape. And I think in terms of restoration, the two different extremes can potentially talk to each other, and so restoration and restoring the natural balance is possibly something that can be a focus on, and it certainly aligns with a global perspective on research priorities.
Yeah, thank you, Gavin. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I am Professor Hau from the Faculty of Education, and I've been listening to all these conversations, and I didn't hear much about education, but I am sure that each and every one of us are here because we were taught by someone. And I believe that for every one of these projects to be functional and to be effective, it begins with teachers and teacher education. And we have to ensure that in every project and every collaboration that we are talking about, we do involve teachers and teacher educators, because sustainability begins with teachers. Without teachers teaching those young ones how to treat the world in a better way, and how to recycle, reuse, and all these slogans that we come up with, we can never have all these other professions. So my call to this collaboration going forth is, let's make teaching and teacher education in South Africa more fashionable. Because at the present moment, it is looked down upon, it is looked at as something that, there's this saying that those who can do, those who cannot teach. I would like for this collaboration to change that mindset, that teachers are the ones with the skills. We need to have teachers that are passionate about what they do, that learn about the diversity in the different contexts, that get exposed to different ways of doing things, so that they are able to teach the young ones based on solid foundations of knowledge that they get from interactions with collaborators from other parts of the world. And if we can do that, then in South Africa, we will stop looking at the pass rate and saying there's 78% pass rate, but the mathematics is 38%. I mean, we need teachers that believe that they can do this because they have seen others do it, and they have learned how they can do it. So please involve teachers, involve teacher educators, and ensure that they are involved in all the conversations, whether it's humanities, whether it's memory, whether it's science, chemistry, all of them. It begins with teachers. Thank you.
Thanks, Prof. Gao. I want to mention that, in fact, the Faculty of Education is one of the strongest partners in this Mandela University of Oldenburg partnership for the lifespan of the partnership. And in fact, since 2003 already, there was a project funded by DAD on improving teacher education, and subsequently a second project on creation of South African German Center of Excellence for Education Research Methodologies and Management. And in fact, in tomorrow's program, Dr. Muki Moeng, the Executive Dean of the Faculty of Education, will be leading a session on that Center of Excellence. So absolutely, and education is a key component of this partnership. So I think the conversations are about how to expand, improve, etc. I saw a couple of hands. I will take... oh yes, my apologies. There has been a hand online for a while, so if I may, with your permission, I will take the hand online, Dr. Ayanda Simai, and then followed by, yes, Prof, you at the back, and then the hand in front. So please go ahead.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to have a few words. Talking as a past student at Nelson Mandela University, who has been funded, as shared on the chat messages by Nisa. Thank you so much, Anja. I have finished my PhD because of the funding from Germany 3 years full time. Thank you very much. And I've seen also online that Malve and Dr. Malve and Prof. Bryant are here. Prof. Carsten is not here. And some that I do not know, I've seen the Germany names. Then whilst on that, I'm happy that Prof. Matabo has just raised education. I'm coming now from the education faculty, but not a representative of the dean, but I'm sharing my views as a lecturer who is there. And I'm linking my thoughts to the issue that you raised. I think Dr. Tandengweli is the one who talked about the social impact. My question is, how can we be assisted to take education out of the university to the community? I'm going to be specific in my case. Like currently, I am having a project where I'm teaching science experiments and sexuality, not just naming the vagina, the what, but that which is in the curriculum in the schools. And the teachers are not teaching it. My PhD is based on that, but besides that, it's a general common conception. Some communities do, but particularly amongst the African communities, teachers avoid that section. So I'm there, supported with some funding by the Teaching and Learning Unit of the University of Nelson Mandela. But now teaching only the grade 6s, because I'm starting, in fact, I've started with the primary school, grade 6 and 7, is just so minimal. How can we be assisted to blow it even to have community gatherings, given that South Africa is predominantly a country which is amongst those who are high on gender-based violence? So it becomes an issue when teachers, due to the culture, they cannot name and talk openly about those issues. I think my question is there. How can we be assisted to go beyond just the classroom, or even spread amongst various classes, but tap on the parent community as well, and go to the rural spaces? Because with my minimal funding, I cannot go to the rural spaces where there is a need of such a particular topic. Thank you very much.
Okay, can I allow Dr. Ngwebi to respond before I take the two hands?
I don't have the magic wand, but I think when we're saying we must have champions, this is exactly the reason. For example, if we identify an area of medical humanities, there could be projects under medical humanities that are targeted at various aspects. And those projects would then have to be, I mean, the project leaders would have to look at the various ways of funding. But to respond directly to you, what's her name again? Sorry, Ayanda?
Ayanda Smai.
Ayanda, I think it would be good to have an engagement with the DVC engagement and transformation, because those are the kind of projects that that the university takes under engagement. I know there's similar projects in the food systems space where there's a lot of university community engagement, and to me this looks like it could be one of them, but we can speak offline. But I think this is more of a scaling up of a project that's showing promise. And I could have a conversation with you and Professor Andre Kate on that. But to put that kind of a project in a partnership like this, I think it would form under a theme on medical humanities with the different aspects on medical humanities. I think the Dean of Humanities is agreeing with me. With the issue of education, I think I did mention education as a cross-cutting across. And in fact, education is the one driving this partnership.
Yes.
So we looking at you to expand it. We're looking at you to expand it. We're looking at you to go to chemistry and say, I'm bringing in education here because education is education. So thank you.
Yes, Prof. Bruder, your thought, please.
So sorry, but I have to mention two things. I fully agree and I fully support that education is the basis. And maybe I can give you two examples how the linkage between top research and teacher education can be closely linked. There is a linkage between. And the one example I would like to give to you is a prize we are giving, an award we are giving to teachers. And the name of the prize is Klaus von Klitzing. You probably don't know who's Klaus von Klitzing, but he's a Nobel Prize winner in physics, German Nobel Prize winner. And he went to school in Oldenburg. And what he's telling you is the start of my career as a researcher was in school. And so when he won the Nobel Prize, he decided to give an award to teachers, to stimulate teachers and to make them aware, to bring the best students to teaching, to teacher education. First example. Second example, we had an evaluation of our field in biology. And let's say the focus was on research in biology. We are very strong in biology. We have an excellence initiative in that area, very strong. And the report we got was, you are one of the best in Lower Saxony when it comes to biology. And because you are one of the best, you must be strong in teacher education. Only the real strong in research should be also in teacher education. So I fully support that a central point of our cooperation should be teacher education, but it should not be separated. It's typically you are talking about teacher education and the other fields. No, it's not. It should be closely linked, because whatever you have in research in different fields, you can transport to teacher education and vice versa. So thank you for this kind of inspiration, and we will write it down in our roadmap. Thank you.
Before I hand over, I'm going to use my power as chair to add. So in the South African system, one of the strategic funding areas of the NRF is the South African Research Chairs Initiative. And in addition to that, there's funding made available over a 4-year period for communities of practice under these chairs. And there's a community of practice in education and care in childhood that incorporates various aspects, as has been highlighted by Dr. Smai. And there's absolutely no reason why Mandela University cannot be part of the conversations, especially in Dr. Smai's area of research that funds that aspect of social engagement. In addition to that, SASTA, which is an arm of the NRF that also supports community engagements, funds engagement projects. So there are various funding opportunities that can be targeted for Dr. Smai's area of interest, in addition to all the ones that have been mentioned here. Okay, yes, please go ahead. And then there was one more hand in front, yes.
Thank you very much. I would like to add a practical aspect to what we've just heard. Our university has a strong focus or is convinced about research-oriented teaching. This is not only a slogan, but different kind of form is developed out of this. And I want to give you a very practical idea what we do in the humanities. There are teaching labs. Most of them are situated in the natural sciences, but there's also one situated in the humanities. And you can understand it like a hub, which means you have seminars from the university, you have school teachers, and they work together on particular themes, and you make it even more concrete to mention the project that's been mentioned earlier again, the Academy Project, prize papers. We work with schools. They develop theater plays based on archival material, and we mentioned the Helene Lange School earlier. And just to give you one example, the most recent project we did with the Helene Lange Schule was a theater play on colonialism, on expansion, on what words to use when you talk about this part of history. And it was done with an inclusive class. So we had people with difficult, I don't know the English term, so I don't even try. So it was an inclusive class and it was an amazing theater play. So we have already an infrastructure, to sum it up, to use. And I learned just from Dr. Hagler, there's also funding for this kind of hub interlinkage between schools, universities, teacher education. So I think, and ours is called Villa Witty or Villa Spirited, Villa Geistreich. So we even have a house where this happens.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for sharing that. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Ulla Licandro. I'm a professor for special education at Oldenburg. So should we talk about education a bit more and the importance? I think so. Thank you so much for all your contributions. And my mind is just running, and I think we have a lot to talk about over the next days. As a new professor, I joined 2 years ago. I was very lucky to have a thriving project in place, which is the one I'm referring to is the internationalization of teacher education, where I was able to join in seamlessly and met so many colleagues at home from South Africa, and it's a wonderful collaboration. And I was thinking about two parts here. First of all, the part of the resources, how important it is to have those project in place, because we also had wonderful examples today how important the relationships are. But in order to engage in those personal relationships and establish them, we need to meet, and we need to have those project spaces where we can get together and where new people can come in and say like, hi, I have no idea who you are, what you're working on, but let's meet, I'm interested, and let's do something together. So that's something that we're thinking about, how we can build a sustainable structure over time. But of course, we also need the personal in place to support these areas. And then the other thing is again, as a new professor, it was great for me to have structures in place to join in. So that's another thing. That I was very glad to see in the roadmap, thinking about new faculty, young researchers, how can we get more people on board and to make sure that the next 25 or 50 or how many years are going to be a success.
Absolutely, and that's why the meeting between counterparts that will occur on Thursday and Friday have been scheduled to take these conversations forward. Okay, colleagues, we've done very well in terms of time. Are there any other hands? I don't see any more hands online. Is there any other burning matter that we need to cover? John, yes, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is John Mashayamombe. I work in the international office at Nelson Mandela University. So I'm not into teaching, but what we do, of course, is the international office, and I'm thinking as part of the conversations, especially from the Nelson Mandela colleagues, I think the conversation also in the roadmap, I think it would be good if you could also think through around the issue of co-supervision. I say this because I think there is a gap in terms of, supervisors who could supervise, especially at postgraduate level. And of course, my colleagues from the international office can also confirm this to say, if we have that particular gap, it also has an implication in terms of the ability of the university to absorb, new, or the numbers that are expected for postgraduate students. So I don't know if it's something that can also be considered in terms of, having co-supervision to enable the university to take in more students who are required to be supervised at master's, PhD level. As the university seeks to spread its wings, and attract more students that come through, I think it's always painful when a student is turned down because supervision capacity, especially at the master's and PhD level. So I hope during the week the conversations may also touch on that. Thank you.
Yes, that's a great point, John. So the co-supervision can happen under the joint degree model, but we also acknowledge the fact that through research visits, there can be mentorship provided as well. So there are various mechanisms for making that happen. Yes, Prof. Schultz?
Hi. Thank you to John from International Office for that. And it's given me some ideas because we have actually almost a crisis in our department with all our retirements, and we have a severe shortage of supervisors. So it would be amazing if we could get some co-supervision possibly happening with University of Oldenburg. Although saying that there are some challenges to overcome because I have co-supervised with a German colleague, just in terms of differences in the way one supervises in the African context versus Germany. But I think we should try and follow that up. Thank you.
Excellent. It looks like we've covered all the key areas, and there will be various avenues to take the conversations forward this week. So if I look at what else is on the program, we are coming up to the lunch break. Lunch will be in the lunch venue to my right. And so, Prof? Oh, am I directionally challenged? It's lunch in this direction. Yeah, I'm very geographically challenged. Thank you. I accept the assistance. There will be lunch, is my point. And then to get you better acquainted with Mandela University, we have arranged for tour leaders that will give you a tour of the campus, led by Ms. Anele. Anele, can you make yourself known? So Anele, Ashley, I've seen Ashley around. She might be at the information desk, and Johan will lead the various groups on a tour of campus. And then, of course, I must highlight tomorrow's program because it will be a shame if you miss it. So you will, if you miss it, you will miss out. So tomorrow is an opportunity for us to delve deeper into the research projects that have happened collaboratively between Mandela University and the University of Oldenburg. And Professor Martin Butler will kick us off with a session on decolonizing academia, opportunities, challenges, and limitations of learning to unlearn. That will be followed by a session on education, as I indicated previously, on East and South African German Center of Excellence in Educational Research Methodologies and Management, and Digital Initiative for African Centers of Excellence. This will be a really fantastic session led by Dr. Muki Moeng, who is en route from her trip to Oldenburg University. She just sent me a message. They are currently in Johannesburg, waiting to arrive in Gqeberha. And then we will have a fantastic session on ICT in support of sustainable development, business intelligence, data science, and artificial intelligence, led by Professor Dr. Jorge Gomez and Prof. Schultz. And then after lunch, we will have the session by Dr. Gavin Rishwood and Dr. Lackman on hydrological and geobiological drivers of modern supra-tidal microbialite connectivity and formation. So a really fantastic program tomorrow. Do you see why you can't miss it? I hope I have underscored why you can't miss it. The venue for tomorrow will be the Ocean Science Campus. It's a beautiful new campus. We look forward to our visitors getting acquainted with that campus. So colleagues, thank you very much for your participation. Please help me thank the panel, and then we break for lunch.